Okay, so I told you there were some tricks. There's some tricky tools in that list that aren't visible on your screen. That's because there are a bajillion tools. Not really, but there's a lot. So if you look at the toolbar really closely, you'll notice that in the corner, the lower right corner of some of the tools, there's a tiny triangle. You see that? So if a tool has a tiny triangle and you press and hold that tool, you should get a little flap that'll show you if there's anything underneath that tool. Now, sometimes the tools that could be back there aren't back there currently. And I'll show you at the bottom here. We have all of these. Oh, all of my Photoshop tools are loaded. Yours might be too. So the very bottom of the toolbar, there's the 3 dots. Not the very, very bottom, but really close to the bottom, right above these 2 black and white squares. And there's a button that flies out that says Edit Toolbar. And if you click that, you can see there are all of these groups of tools. So that way you could see them all at once and find those tools that you can't identify right now. And I'll do it again so you can see. So 3 dots at the bottom, hold, click Edit Toolbar, and you'll get a big window come up that shows all of the tools visible. Now, once you use a tool, so if you hold it down and the flyout menu comes out and you choose a tool that's normally behind one, like back there in the back, it becomes the one on top. Okay, so then it's the one you most recently used is always on top. Now the pictures on your handout are from a little bit previous version, a couple versions back. So I know the tools change a little bit in there, what they look like, the icons change, but I think you should still be able to figure out most of them. I can't remember the one it seems like there's one that's pretty different, but it's probably Magic Wand, yeah. Looks like a sparkly cigarette is what it looks like, doesn't it? The Magic Wand, it used to have a star on top of it, 1 star. There might be another one that's just a lot different than the picture on your toolbar, but it's similar enough you can tell what it is. Especially from the big menu where you can see all of them. And it should also be in the same place. So on the toolbar where you are, you should be able to identify it just by place. It should be in the same-ish place. All right, we ready? Here we go. Okay, we are going to open an image. So, File at the top of your screen, click File. And then Open. Now, we're going to actually travel over to the S drive. If you've never been into the S drive, it's a whole new world in there. I have a folder in the S drive that has a ton of stuff that we'll refer to all the time. So get used to this path. So we're going to go to Student Files, S, and then Common, Classes, HS, High School, and then me at the top because I'm number 1, Amos. And if you'll scroll down, you'll find that there is a folder for this class, Digital Marketing. Now, the S drive is my drive. I can save stuff into it. You can't save to this drive. So when you open something and it says you try to save it and it's like, you don't have the rights to do that. That's because you're trying to save it back to my drive and it won't let you. But you can pull things out of it and it will still be there. Okay. So digital marketing. And then you're going to find a folder in all caps called images. This is the one we use the most, really, for Photoshop. So images. And inside of images, we're going to open, let me see what we're opening first. Ellipse World. You need me to do it again? Okay, everybody calm down, take a breath. Are we calm? Okay. Are you in Amos? And then there's no digital marketing under DECA? Is there a DC1? That was the name of this class before. Okay, open DC1. It's probably in there. And then images. We good? Okay. And then ellipse world. We're going to open ellipse world. What is this shiny blue marble? No, it's not. We're going to use the ellipse marquee. So marquee tools are selection tools. It's in your group of selection tools. So the rectangle marquee is the one that's on top, right? You've probably written that down on your paper when we're looking at tools. So if you hold it down, the second tool underneath the flyout is the elliptical marquee, and we're going to use that ellipse selection tool. And what you're going to do first is try to draw a circle around your shiny blue marble. Now, if you'll notice, when I draw, it's kind of ovally, right? But I can still move it around to get it over the earth. What you're trying to do is get it pretty exact. Now, if you know, it's the elliptical marquee, so second tool down, and then hold that rectangle down and the elliptical marquees underneath it. If you hold shift while you draw, you'll get a perfect circle. You're trying to get most of the world, none of the black. The world isn't actually a perfect circle. You'll find out when you try to do that. Now, those little, it looks like it's moving. Do you see that? The selection path, the little dots, those are called marching ants. So your marching ants are marching around the world. Now, Control D, letter D like dog. What happened? You have marching ants? No, where'd they go? We canceled the selection. So to get rid of a selection, any kind of selection, Control D, is deselect. So we made a selection, then we just deselected it. We canceled it. Okay, so that's going to come in real handy throughout the future because you're going to be like, it's not working. Deselect, deselect, Control D. Now, if you look at this magic up here on the screen, woo! If you place your mouse right in the center of the world and you hold Alt and Shift, then click and drag, you can drag out from the center. Whoa! That's even better, right? Because that way you can get pretty darn close to perfect right from the center. Now this selection that we just made, if you go to the Move tool at the top, your crosshairs, and you click that selection and pull it off of the background, what happens? Move it. Click it and move your world around. What happens? Is it moving? You're actually cutting it out. If it's selected, still have marching ants, and you use your Move tool up here, your Move tool, and click it, you can move it around. Now, unfortunately, if I deselect right here, it's no longer movable. I moved it and it was permanent. Okay, so I can't like move it back. And I have this big gaping white hole, right? So I'm going to undo, which is Control Z. And I had to undo 2 times because I moved it around quite a bit. I have my marching ants back, right? but I'm going to deselect those. We're going to do one more step. Control D, deselect. This time, look in your option bar. So every tool comes with options. So if you click the marquee select, right above your window where your artboard is, you have all of this stuff. In Photoshop, it's a canvas. In Illustrator, it's an artboard. And if I interchange them, I'm sorry, but I work in Illustrator more than Photoshop. So this option bar up here changes for every tool. So like if I go down to the lasso tool, it's different. And if I go to the magic wand, it's different again. I get all these other adjustments for each tool. It gives you more power to work with. So I'm going to click the elliptical marquee, and in the option bar, look for feather. And I'm going to change the feather to 2 px. That's 2 pixels. It's not very big, tiny, but it's going to make a difference on our elliptical world for what we do next. So then I'm going to hold my mouse right in the center of the world. I'm not clicking yet, I'm just positioning. Alt Shift, click and drag out my circle from the center. Get as close to perfect as you can get it. Then let go. Let go of your mouse first, then your fingers on the keyboard. And then I'm going to Control C. Control C is copy. Tyler, I hope you're with me, dude, because we're making something we're going to turn in. Now, with that copy in the background, we're going to open something else. Okay, so Control C, copy, and then we're going to File, Open, and bless our hearts, we go right back to the same folder. That saves us so much time. And this time we're going to open Ellipse Universe. I recognize that. It's the Milky Way. Control V, and we just place the world out in the universe. Look at us. Now, what's really cool is you can drag the world around and position it wherever you want. Look over. I'm going to stand up and point. Look over on this side, and let me describe what you're seeing on this side. Okay, we haven't talked about this side of your window yet. These are panels. So all of Photoshop tools and adjustments are in panels. So I have the color panel up top, and then I have a learn panel, and then I have the layers panel. In the layers panel, notice we now have 2 layers. We have the background, and it has a little icon that I can tell that background is the universe picture. And then I have a layer 1, and it has a gray and white checkerboard and a tiny little world in it. So Photoshop works in layers. They stack on top of each other. So you can actually move them up and down, and they'll go in front of or behind the next layer. Whatever's on top is in front, whatever's on bottom is behind. So you can move these around as long as they're not locked. The background is always locked to protect it. It's like a protection feature built in. You can unlock it. You just double click the layer. It says, are you sure you want to do that? You say yes, and it's unlocked. So we're going to work a lot with layers because that concept is probably the hardest one to grasp at first. But think of it like pieces of paper in a stack. If you want this piece of paper on top, you move it to the top of the stack, right? Same thing here. If you want this on top, you move it, you just click and drag it to the top of the stack. So it's a layer stack, just like a stack of papers. Now, our world, if I wanted to resize this, I can't, right? Because I don't have any like move handles. I don't have anything to grab those little squares. You have to turn something on. In your option bar, as long as you're on the Move tool, which is the first one, in our new option bar, you have to click Show Transform Controls. Click that box. It should remember that setting for you forever until something happens and we have to re-image the computers. When you click that box, ta-da, now you have move handles. You have little squares. So we can resize, and if you hold Shift, you resize. Oh no, you don't have to hold Shift anymore. That's new in the last version of Photoshop, and I love it. You don't have to hold Shift anymore. So every video where I say to hold Shift, don't hold Shift. Now, once I resize this, do you start to see tiny squares? Yeah, what are those? Pixels. Because what kind of image is this? It's a raster. Raster images or bitmap images are made of pixels. So resize your world, position it wherever you want, and then we're going to learn to save in Photoshop. Now, this particular world that we made, do you notice the edge is nice and soft and a tiny bit fuzzy around the edge? It's not like a real clean, hard edge. That fuzzy edge is the feather we added. That's that 2-pixel feather we added. We did that so it looks smoother when we place it on another object. If it's a real hard edge, sometimes it looks really awkward. Obviously, this looks not real, but it looks more real than it would have with that hard edge. All right, so we're going to save. File, save as. Now you have two options. Save to cloud saves it to your cloud account, your own account. Most of the time, we want to save it to our computer. Now, if you have projects that you really want to keep forever, go ahead and save a copy in your cloud too. But for class projects, so that it's easier for you to find them, we want to save it to our computer. So save to your computer, and you're going to get this box, and this is like your dialog box, your save dialog box. If you remember in survey how to save, we're not in the cloud anymore. It doesn't auto save. You're going to find on the left-hand side your drive, your H drive probably has your login name next to it. Hopefully you know where your H drive is. H drive, if you don't have a digital marketing folder, create a new folder, make a digital marketing folder, and inside of that, make a folder, new folder named Photoshop. And we're going to name this Ellipse World. Ellipse World. But there's one more step. Don't say save yet. When we are saving Photoshop documents, the save process is different than like Word or PowerPoint or anything else you normally save like this. In Photoshop, there's a Photoshop working document that you can go in and edit again, and then there's a permanent document, a JPEG. If you save it as a Photoshop, a PSD, it's a really big file. It remembers like your layers, and you can go in and change things. If you save it as a JPEG, you cannot go in and change things. So if we're doing something to turn in, the last step should be save as a JPEG. If you don't finish one day and you need to work on it more, save as a Photoshop document. And it's completely fine. You have lots of room in your drive to save both. Save the Photoshop document in case you want to come back to it, and then go back and save as a JPEG with the same name to turn in. That's fine, okay? So today we're finished. We're not doing anything else to this. So we're going to save as a JPEG, JPEG, and then we can say save. Now you're going to get a quality question. How high quality do you want this? This one's still pretty small, 580. That's pretty small. That's fine. That's kilobytes, by the way, the case for kilobytes. It's about half a megabyte, if you know what a megabyte is. So quality, okay. Sometimes I bump that down. 8 is like standard, normal, average quality. Yay! We did one. How much time we got? Well, we've got time to do one more. Let's go do another one. So we're going to do File, Open. When you close it, it's probably going to, the original one you took out of my H drive, like the one with the world on it alone, it's going to ask you if you want to save it because we've made changes, but you just say no. No save. It won't let you anyway because you took it out of my drive. You can close it. You can close both of them now. So no changes, close the world. And if it asks you again, do you want to save something? You can say no because you saved it, right? You saved it as Ellipse World. Those are both original documents for you, so no save. All right, so let's open another one. We're going to open, I'm going to have to go back to my S drive because I've used a new folder since then. So I'm going to go Student Files S, Common, Classes, HS, Amos, and then DC1 for you guys. Why doesn't it say digital marketing? It says digital marketing for me. Images. And then we are going to scroll down a little bit to the C's. We're going to open Crop Stonehenge. Crop Stonehenge. Anybody been here? Any Stonehenge visitors? No. So the crop tool is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down on your toolbar. You might recognize it. It looks the same in Word. It looks the same in like Google Docs. So crop. The crop tool works on these little move handles, and you notice they change. They're no longer squares. They're the ones that you should recognize from Word or Google. They're same universally, and they work by moving around. So the only thing to remember about the crop tool is it's permanent. Like you can undo, but once you close the document, you can't go back and get that stuff back unless you save it as a new name. So we're going to crop Stonehenge in this first group of people. Now, what's cool is you can still move stuff around. If I change my mind, I can still move the image around behind that crop, right? But I'm getting Stonehenge and that little group of people on the road to the right. There are 2 OKs. There's a checkbox up in your option bar. You see it up there? You can click the checkbox, or you can hit the Enter key on your keyboard. And either Enter key works. The number pad works and the Enter by your letters. Both work. That approves your change. That check mark is true for a lot of changes. If you resize something, sometimes it'll ask for that. If you place something, it'll ask for a check mark. So if you ever get stuck and it won't let you do anything and your layers are grayed out and the text is grayed out and you cannot do anything on your document and you're desperate, look in the option bar and see if you have a check mark. You probably have a check mark. You probably made a change and it's waiting for you to say yes. The bad part of watching video tutorials, like when I make a tutorial for something and we watch it in class and you split your screen, is you can't see the check mark because it's way over to the right. So you have to like full screen, find the check mark, or hit enter and see if it accepts the change. Okay, it's probably a check mark to get stuck. Now I'm going to teach you another shortcut. You ready? Control the plus sign zooms in. Control minus zooms out. My favorites, use those all the time. We're going to use everybody's favorite clone stamp real quick. So not quite halfway down your toolbar, you're going to find something that looks like a stamp or a joystick. That is the clone stamp. We're getting rid of these people. They're messing up my image here. Now, one more shortcut. You ready? The clone stamp is a brush, a paintbrush. What it does is it picks up the image inside of that circle and it paints it wherever you drag it. So whatever's on the inside of your circle, like, can you see my tiny circle up there? It takes a picture of that and then it paints it wherever you want it to go. Now, the bigger your brush, and the shortcut for that is bracket. The right bracket makes your brush bigger. The left bracket makes your brush smaller. The brackets are next to the letter P on your keyboard. So right bracket makes it bigger. So it's going to take a bigger picture, right? Because it's got more room to take a picture of. Now, there's a hotkey. It doesn't just do it yet. And if you click right now, it's going to give you an error, right? Could not use because clone has not been identified. Alt, the Alt key. Hold Alt and you'll see a tiny crosshair appear. And if you click, you took the picture. And if you let go of Alt and you begin to paint, you're now painting whatever is in the crosshair. Now the cool thing is it keeps moving. That crosshair paint moves with you. So as you go, it will continue to paint in a pretty natural way. Now, once you get something like, I'm going to zoom in on these people. Once you get something like this, where there are like multiple things going on, that's going to be kind of a difficult crop, isn't it? Or clone, because I cropped them off too much. You can pick up new sections as many times as you want. Just keep hitting Alt. You can change the size of your brush. Maybe I decide I want to do this and get rid of them that way. Maybe I'm just going to repeat. Now, what's funny is it remembers where you were. It's like if you go far enough, it will repaint what was originally there under the old paint or the new paint. So it's kind of crazy. So see if you can paint those people away. Get rid of those people. Get off my lawn. Whoops. Whoops. I'm doing a real crappy clone job here. Control Z. Control Z is undo. If it doesn't undo again, I think Control Z works in Photoshop now through. Let me know if it doesn't. Used to, you had to add another hotkey. Look at me getting rid of these people. I'm not doing a very good job at it, but I am getting rid of them. I'm making new mountains over in this area of, is this the Salisbury Plains? Where is this in England? I'm going to zoom way in to get this little piece right here. Keep clicking Alt to change your clone. That's pretty terrible, but they're gone. Now, we're going to look at Photoshop flubs one day. Well, unfortunately, we cropped way too much. If we had left all that other side over there, I made them. Here, I just held Alt and clicked here, and then I went over here and started painting it. Just remade mountains. Photoshop is a great big lie. It's just a big old cheat. You want me to come show you? I will say this particular tool is